Good morning there, everybody. Claire Mockridge here. I trust you're actually it's afternoon, isn't it? Good afternoon, everybody. Claire Mockridge here. I trust you're well. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion, actually, because I'm often asked questions like, what's the best position for me to breastfeed my baby in, or how can I breastfeed my baby and stop getting back pain, those sorts of things. Now, I'm going to probably give you a slightly out of the box situation here, or out of the box discussion when it comes to breastfeeding. So it might hopefully sort of just get some thoughts going, bit thought provoking. Just as I say, kind of it's more of an outside the box sort of approach to what breastfeeding is, perhaps the benefits, and also get you thinking a little bit about perhaps why you're getting pain as well when you're breastfeeding at the moment. So what I thought I would start off with is when you look at the research of the benefits of giving babies breast milk, for example, it's actually really interesting to note that there's actually sometimes no distinction between the baby actually suckling the milk from mom's breast and actually expressing the milk and then giving the baby the milk via a bottle. And I think that's actually quite interesting, really, because the actual action of breastfeeding for babies' health and babies' own sort of development is actually a natural movement. It's something that we've all, as mammals, something that we've all been able to do for several centuries now. And I just think that's actually quite out of this world, really. So when you're looking at the benefits for sort of the development and the health of your baby, when we look at research, there's no distinction between breastfeeding, the actual action of breastfeeding and giving the baby the milk via the breast, and then kind of expressing the milk and then giving the baby the milk via a bottle. And in my eyes, from a mechanical perspective, those two things are very, very sort of different. So it's almost like we've actually reduced breastfeeding to breast milk. Okay, in some research studies anyway. So it's almost like the mechanical benefits of feeding a baby from the breast have actually hardly been acknowledged at all in some research. So just sort of putting that out there just as something to start with. I find that quite fascinating, that we're sort of saying, okay, it's great to breastfeed your baby for baby's development and health, but we're not really looking at the mechanical perspective of what's required from the baby to actually suckle the milk from mom's breast in the first instance. Okay, so there's that distinction. Also, I think from a societal sort of perspective, I'm just going to pop down here and grab a little drink of my coffee here. Also, I think from a societal perspective, perhaps you have actually, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of found that, some people aren't actually that supportive of breastfeeding when you're out in public. So I think you also, looking at that from your perspective, in that, okay, yeah, you're going to be pretty offended because it's a pretty natural thing that you should be able to be doing whenever, wherever. But it also, because of that aspect, I think it can sometimes affect your baby's experience of life, and also sort of feeding situations as well. So I just want to kind of start with those two things there. That, as I say, it's almost like we've reduced breastfeeding to breast milk, and there's a distinct difference between feeding a baby from your boob and expressing the breast milk, and then giving it to them via a bottle. I'll probably come back to the actual mechanical kind of perspective a little bit later on, but the main question I want to answer here, which is a very commonly asked question, is it's more to do with sort of breastfeeding positions and pain. So I don't know whether any of you kind of watching would probably sort of say that yes, I am getting pain when I'm feeding my baby for a long period of time. And if you have any questions surrounding that, perhaps you could let me know, sort of what positions you are feeding your baby in that are giving you pain, and then I can kind of answer those, kind of in more of a bespoke sort of manner here. But yeah, certainly it's something that you want to. I'm going to give you a slightly outside the box approach here to breastfeeding and pain. Okay, so the first point I wanted to sort of make is that you probably, as a breastfeeding mother, have perhaps 3 go-to positions that you can actually currently feed your baby in. So one of them might be the laid back breastfeeding. That seems to be kind of quite a rage at the moment over the last few years. So midwives and health visitors will sort of suggest that you lie back in bed, okay, prop yourself up with some pillows, and then, you know, baby's actually kind of lying on you. So the laid back breastfeeding is certainly a bit of a trend that's sort of coming through. It's not good, it's not bad. I'm not saying that it is. So as I say there, you might have, as far as breastfeeding and pain goes, you might have 3 go-to positions. So the first one might be the laid back breastfeeding. Okay, so if you did or have done that position, let me know. You just put a little thumbs up there or just a little comment in the box. The next position, your go-to position, would be perhaps something like side lying in bed. Yeah, so you're lying in bed sideways and your baby's, like, you know, feeding from your boob that way. You might find though that when you're lying in bed, perhaps you feel more comfortable breastfeeding on one side than you do on the other. So that's kind of good and bad. Good to note, okay. Bad that perhaps baby's always being fed that same way on that more dominant side though, okay. So there's kind of some benefits, some drawbacks to both mother and baby if you're doing the same repetitive sort of position. So you've got laid back breastfeeding, then you've got the side lying in bed, and you might have perhaps one go-to seated position where you have, I don't know, something like a rocking chair or a sturdy sort of chair in the nursery or wherever, and you've got like this pillow, this mountain of pillow situation around you, okay. And that's kind of quite common. So every few days you need to kind of alter the cushions in your back, upper back, perhaps even your feet don't touch the floor, so you think you had this right, you know, brain wave that actually bringing the foot off the floor was a little bit easier on your back. Now, when you've only got 3 positions that you can comfortably breastfeed in, it kind of means that your options are severely limited. Now, if I say to you that your body will conform to the position that you most often place it in, it's no wonder really that you are getting pain, because you've only got 3 ways of breastfeeding your baby. You need to, as I say, kind of think outside that box a little bit. And I'm going to give you some strategies and give you some ideas to actually not just have those 3 go-to positions. Are you with me? Yeah? Okay. Because I think it's time that we changed the conversation from what's the most comfortable position to breastfeed my baby in to what other positions could I potentially experiment with that will benefit my body and also benefit my baby as well. So can you kind of see that there's a slightly different angle that I'm going down here? You can breastfeed your baby in whatever damn position you can, yeah? But using the word can there is actually quite a highlight, I suppose, really, if I could, you know, in can. Because probably the reason you only have 3 go-to positions is because you don't have the strength, you don't have the endurance, and you don't have the flexibility or the mobility in some joints in your body to be able to do anything else for a long period of time. And I might make the distinction as well, we're not really designed as human beings on this planet to be in one position for any length of time. I sat down for most of my 20s, you know, doing desk-bound work. And I'm really feeling the effects, you know, a couple of decades later in my hip joints. I still get back pain from you know, from that position from time to time. So, you know, nobody's perfect. I do know what sets my back pain off though, and that's certainly excessive sitting. So if one of your go-to positions is somewhat a sitting position and you don't know how to set your pelvis in neutral, or you haven't watched the video where it says, you know, this is the position that is most supportive for your pelvis, or you can't actually put your body in a neutral position because you didn't do during your pregnancy and you didn't do prior to pregnancy, yeah, then yeah, you are going to start, something is going to have to give, okay, and often it is your back or your shoulder. All of you that attend my pre and postnatal fitness or Pilates classes, you should all get tips and ideas on how to hold your baby as well whilst they're breastfeeding. And if you don't know what I'm talking about there, how many times during a class do I say when your arm is being used or when your arm is moving, you do not need to lift your shoulder, okay? You also know where your neck should be in space as well. So if you're getting neck or shoulder pain, I'm solving that for you now. Yeah, ear should be sat on the shoulder, and the shoulder should most definitely be down. So if you only have 3 positions that you're breastfeeding in, you might want to sort of think about maybe changing those. So sometimes it's actually, you know, your body's ability to stay in one position. It's not really designed to do that. So I'm going to put a shout out to you and say you need to move more. So sometimes the reason you can't act for a long period of time, the reason you're getting pain is because you sat in the same position for a long period of time, and the body's not really designed to do that. So you need to get up and move. You need to change the way that you're feeding your baby for the sake of your own back or your shoulders or your neck or whatever your pain side is. So sometimes it's actually more to do with how little you're actually moving throughout the rest of the day. Now, I appreciate that, you know, sometimes when you're feeding your baby, it's for hours and hours and hours on end, and nobody really tells you how frequently a baby is actually being breastfed for. Sometimes, you know, kind of depends a little bit on the baby, but all of us linked to, like, you know, mammal society. I mean, I was just walking past a field near our house there in Derbyshire, and it's lambing season now, so the little lambs are out. And it's just fascinating to watch the ewes and the little sort of lambs as they kind of interact with one another. But it's really interesting because if the lamb wants some food, wants some milk, it literally just trots over, suckles mum for a couple of minutes, and then off she goes again. Okay. And I suppose as mammals ourselves, it's almost like you want to kind of get the baby to come to you rather than you setting yourself up so that everything's kind of helping yourself. So it would be great, really, and I do, this is going to sound really wacky and just like, you know, it is an out-of-the-box discussion here, but a lot of my, you know, biomechanics friends who have had children are really into fixing their body and getting less pain and, you know, bearing children pain-free, you know, sort of lots of stuff that I could kind of talk a little bit more deeper about. But a lot of those guys that I know, the baby actually comes to them once it's crawling. Okay, so wouldn't it be great if you could just be kind of, I don't know, out in the garden, for example, you got your baby on the nice sort of soft grass, and it wants some food and it just kind of trots over to you and then, you know, feeds. Yeah, you proffer your boob. Yeah, so you just bend over, give the boob, and there you go. Yeah, okay. So I'm just sort of saying that is a very different equation to sort of like the society that we're living in at the moment, but it's not too far removed from a natural instinct and a natural sort of thing like, you know, the ewes and the lambs. Okay, so I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of thought-provoking stuff here this afternoon. So yeah, if you've only got 3 go-to positions, your options are severely limited, so you will be getting pain. And it really is down to the fact that you don't have the strength, you don't have the endurance, and you certainly don't have the mobility in certain joints and areas in your body to be able to, you know, sort of feed for long periods of time. However, as I say there, you're not really supposed to be in the same position for a heck of a long time. You notice I'm standing up here today. I've done a lot of sitting down on the floor this morning, doing sort of admin and stuff. So for this particular Facebook Live, because I'm going to be here for a good 20 minutes or so, I thought I'm going to stand up and do this one. And underneath my feet I've got a tennis ball, okay, and just off the side here I can also do something on a little kind of calf stretch as well. So apologies that I'm moving around, but I wanted to kind of just explain that sometimes when I'm doing stuff and when I'm getting movement into my day, rather than just, you know, teaching a class. You know, if you notice when I teach a Pilates class, I don't really get a lot of movement in there. Okay, I'm walking around, I'm checking your technique, but I'm not necessarily doing the exercises with you. So I like to get movement into my day in other ways. Okay, so as I say that, it's more about moving whilst you're doing that breastfeeding stuff. So one of the reasons you can't actually breastfeed for a long period of time, because I find that a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of people sort of like prop themselves up with tons of pillows, get the baby actually close to them, and then it's all about the baby being in the right position, which I totally get. But as soon as you put sort of the word convenience in something, so where you've put loads of pillows and underneath baby, so baby's coming up to your boob, As soon as you put the word convenience in something, then it means that you have outsourced the work to another area, or you've outsourced the work completely, okay? So if you have a pillow underneath your baby, because it's probably because, you know, underneath baby to prop them up, yeah? It's probably because you don't have the strength in this bicep muscle to be able to actually hold them. And, you know, way back in hunter-gatherer times, from the age of 4, you would have been expected as a young person in your tribe to actually carry your youngest sibling, or your nieces and your nephews, or whatever, yeah? Or your other cousins or whatever, okay? So very few mothers nowadays actually carry their baby, hold their babies, perhaps a better word to use. So, yeah, okay, you hold them when you're sort of walking around the house. But could you experiment with different go-to positions that you could breastfeed in that actually get you more strength in this bicep muscle as your baby actually gets heavier? So the number one reason why I do a lot of shoulder loading work, like press-ups and hands and knees and resistance band work in my prenatal classes, is in the hope that you will understand how your arms and shoulders should work, because as I say 25,000 times in a class, get the shoulder down when the arm is moving, okay? So you shouldn't need to lift the shoulder up, because as soon as you lift the shoulder up, you're no longer working the bicep muscle. So get the shoulder down and actually use your arm muscles to hold your baby there. So if you could experiment a little bit just around the house, you know, in your own sort of enclave there, you could perhaps experiment with carrying. I'm going to say holding. I'm going to say holding the baby, because there is a distinction between carrying baby and holding it. Maybe you could experiment a little bit with holding baby and seeing if there's something, somehow, you could perhaps breastfeed them for a 30-second period whilst you're standing up. There you go. All right. That's one position that you could experiment with. So it's not your go-to. However, when you're standing, why don't you take all those things on board that I've been teaching you over the last few months or whatever, and stand in perfect alignment whilst you're doing it. Those of you that attend my classes, you also get a heads up on pelvic neutral. So you should be able to set your pelvis in neutral. Maybe, yeah, you need some props, and that's fine. But perhaps you could sit on the floor. How does that sound? Is that like totally wacky? Yeah, perhaps what you could do, instead of going to those 3 go-to positions, which I've mentioned before, might be laid back in bed, would be one, side lying in bed, perhaps is another popular one, and then you've got that, rocking chair or sturdy chair set up somewhere in the nursery with tons of pillows, and that's the only 3 positions that you're actually breastfeeding in. It's no wonder that you're getting pain. So you need to think, as I say, outside the box a little bit and move from those 3 go-to positions and try something different. Even if at the moment you only have the endurance to be able to hold your baby for 30 seconds, at least that's 30 seconds of you not being sat or laid down in those other 3 positions, okay? So talking about sitting on the floor, again, guys that actually come to my classes, you should know how to set your pelvis in neutral. Doesn't mean that you can sit in neutral. So yes, you'll probably need to, if you have a sofa at home, and the cushions that you sit on, yeah, why don't you take those off the sofa, 2 or 3 of those off the sofa, and then actually sit on that, and then get the pelvis in neutral. So you might have quite a throne set up here now, because that's how unclose to neutral your pelvis is at the moment. It's very tipped backwards. Yes, you want the front of the pelvis rotated forwards. So why don't you see if you could sit on those 3, cushions. It's going to be quite high. Cross your legs, open the legs, have one leg bent, one leg straight, both legs straight out in front of you. You can either lean yourself back against the sofa, or you can actually stay in more of an active position. Why don't you try that? Okay, and that way then you've got the pelvis in a better position, and you're also giving some more nutrients, I suppose, really into the pelvis as well, because you haven't got your same, right leg crossed over the left when you sat doing the feeding in the rocking chair or whatever, okay? Because there's going to be a particular position that your feet are in and a particular position that your shoulder is in as well, okay, when you're feeding in a chair. So I want you to think a little bit more about perhaps because your three go-to positions are also going to be what's called passive as opposed to active. So passive is kind of literally like where you laid back with the baby on you and nothing else pretty much in your body is working at this point. So you haven't got any core activation. None of your spinal muscles are having to work to hold you upright. You're not really having to use your bicep very much here. Do you kind of understand what I mean? Yeah. So if that's a very passive situation. So you're basically just letting gravity hold you in this very passive, not much happening sort of position. Whereas an active position would be something like you standing up, feeding your baby, using your bicep muscle. So don't let that shoulder lift up, yeah? Try and drop the shoulder down. So get some strength into these bicep muscles because these are going to help you hold and carry that baby and lift the baby up without the shoulders lifting, yeah? And these are going to help you as your baby actually gets bigger and puts on more weight as well, okay? So that's another little distinction there. So yeah, standing up would be one active way, or sitting on the floor without leaning back against something. I'm not sort of saying that you're going to have the endurance, mobility or strength to be able to do that for very long, but it's worth a shot. And most of you are going to have to sit on 2 or 3 cushions, quite sturdy cushions, so that you're not sitting on the back of your pelvis. You want to be sort of tipping the front of your pelvis forwards, so you've got that nice lumbar spine, okay? And then you can kind of move. I really like the idea of, and as I said, a lot of my alignment nerd friends, I really like the idea of sitting on the floor to breastfeed on cushion, so you're bringing the floor closer to your pelvis. And then you can do different things with your legs. So you can have your legs straight out in front of you. That might be impossible for some of you because your hamstrings are about that long. Okay, you might be able to cross your legs, but do you always need to cross the right shin over first? You need to cross the opposite shin over. Can you separate your legs into like a V? Can you have one leg bent, one leg straight? Can you cross one ankle over? Then can you cross the other ankle over? Yeah, those sorts of things. I really like the, I'd like you to experiment a little bit with sitting on the floor without using the shoulder, using the bicep, and just build yourself up, because it's going to kind of help you, give you a different position, and give your body a bit of a workout whilst it's there as well. The other reason that you don't have the strength in your bicep is because you don't do very much with your arms. So you might think I'm crazy when you see videos of me, sort of doing the monkey bars and stuff like that. I mean, in fact, actually, after I finish this Facebook Live session, I'm off to meet some friends in West Bridgeford for a late lunch. And on the way there, I'm going to walk through West Bridgeford Park and have a go on the monkey bars, okay? So you might think, oh my God, Claire, what planet is Claire actually from? But the monkey bar stuff is something that really helps build my upper body strength and keeps that maintained, okay? I'm not sort of saying that you all should be aspiring to go on the monkey bars, but I guarantee by the time your child is wanting to go on the monkey bars, you won't be able to do it. Yeah, you won't have the strength, you won't have the mobility to be able to do that with your own child, okay? So, and it's something that we should all actually be able to do. So one little step that you could do, again, this is thinking outside the box. You don't have to conform to society in some instances. Say for example, I'm just going to have a little sip of my tea here, and I got to like stretch out my hamstrings as I did that. I do hope you're moving position as well when you're watching these Facebook Lives, either it's the recording or the live. So let me paint a picture here. If you saw someone walking through Nottingham City Centre carrying a newborn baby, some of you might think, that's a bit weird. Oh, I wonder what's happened. Maybe some of these thoughts might go through your mind. Yeah, so just picture it now. Someone just walking, down Colombo Street or something, carrying a newborn baby. Now, we have become so conformed to carrying a baby in a buggy or a car seat or one of those baby carriers, that when we see someone holding a baby in their own arms using their, arm muscles, it's almost like that's the weird bit. Whereas, as I say, like there wouldn't have been buggies and there wouldn't have been car seats, and perhaps there would have been sling type things, I guarantee, yeah, back in hunter-gatherer times. But let's just put this out here for a moment. Say you only need one thing from the shop. Okay, it might take a little bit of prep, But do you always have to take your baby in the buggy when you go to the shop for one item? Now, my local shop, admittedly, is 1.5 miles away. So for me to carry my baby to the local supermarket, now that unfortunately the village shop is closed, I reckon I could do it, because I actually do carry bags and carry items in my arms quite often. So when you see me walking around, which is kind of, fairly rare, I suppose, really, in West Bridgeford, because I don't tend to take my walks in urban areas very much. But I'll carry stuff here. So if I went to the shop, local supermarket, I would actually carry the items back using my upper body. So as soon as you kind of carry the bag, down by your side, you're not really using the arms. It's almost like it's just, hanging off your own shoulders there. In fact, actually, your wrist starts to ache after a while, doesn't it? And the forearm muscles. So you can actually put, baby in your arms. You get all the change ready that you need, or like, Apple Pay, whatever. You could get your keys out. You could take the 5-minute journey it is to walk to the shop, get the item, stick it in your pocket, or if you need to carry it, then you could stick it in a rucksack or something. Then you carry the baby back, and hello, we've got some natural movement there. Okay, I think it's kind of time really that we sort of broke the trend that the baby has to be in something all the time. It's very detached, actually, when we put things in, put babies in buggies and car seats and things like that. But I wanted to make the distinction between holding baby. I'm not talking about baby carriers. Again, that's kind of more of a convenience thing. So as soon as we put the word convenience in something, it either makes it more convenient, okay, obviously, takes the work off certain muscles, but can sometimes also put the load on the wrong sort of muscle groups as well. So for those of you with abdominal separation or pelvic floor dysfunction, weak pelvic floor, if you're I'm trying to use the word carrying a baby in like a sling or a baby carrier, and you're finding that pressure, that load is going through your pelvic floor, that's why, because you're outsourcing it from your arms and just applying the load onto the abs and the pelvic floor instead. Okay, so that's an interesting point to note there. So start holding your baby. Can you see the distinction between carrying it in something and holding it? Yeah, because you want these biceps doing more of the work, okay? Now the final note that I'm going to end on here is the mechanical benefits of breastfeeding for your baby, okay? Now, if you think about something, I'm trying to think of something, I don't eat a lot of sugar, but I was trying to think of something like a toffee apple or one of those really big sweets that takes up your entire mouth. You know when you've eaten something and your jaw actually starts to kind of ache a bit? Once that's happened, your jaw has actually had a damn good workout, okay? So when a baby's actually, extracting milk from your own boob, there's quite a lot of mechanical stuff going on in that mouth region, tongue, jaw, lots of muscles that are being worked. So when babies are breastfed, every single time they're getting a jaw workout. So in the beginning of this segment here, I sort of mentioned that it's almost as though we have reduced the word breastfeeding to breast milk. Because when they look at the benefits of breastfeeding for babies' health and development, sort of fighting disease and all that sort of stuff, in some of the research, it doesn't make the distinction between the baby being fed from the breast and the baby being fed breast milk that's been expressed and then placed in a bottle. So I just find that fascinating that it's almost like we have to say, like, the mechanical benefits of feeding baby from your breast have actually hardly been acknowledged, but it's a really good workout for your baby's jaw. And I would probably encourage you to breastfeed for as long as you possibly can, because it is a good workout. So again, some of my alignment nerd friends will breastfeed their baby for years, okay, post-birth, sort of 3 years, and actually the baby then just decides when they no longer want to breastfeed for. I understand that that may not be practical for you, but it's worth kind of, if circumstances fall that way for you as a mom, then why not experiment with that? Yeah, break the trend. Yeah, break the mold a little bit there, because it is going to really help your baby's jaw development. So I was going to kind of go off on a little tangent here with the jaw sort of workout. So again, as humans, we're all given predisposed number of teeth. Okay, so the main reason children, when they get to teenage years, when they start getting braces, yeah, the main reason children need braces is because the jaw isn't big enough, hasn't been developed enough to accommodate, hasn't got enough space for the predisposed number of teeth that are actually in it. So if I can kind of again stress that when you breastfeed, when a baby breastfeeds, the action, getting the tongue out of the way and, suckling and actually, pumping the milk out of mom's boob is actually a really good workout. Yeah, natural movement that baby is getting every single time it suckles mom's boob. Okay, so I would encourage you to breastfeed for as long as you possibly can. So we're all given the same number of teeth, but it's the very fact that our jaw hasn't been developed enough to be able to provide the space for our teeth in it, in some instances anyway. So that's just worth sort of pointing out. And since the invention of cutlery, which is like a long time now, isn't it? Again, that's convenient, so isn't it? Okay, yeah, fair enough. Like I'm going to ask you wouldn't want to come around to dinner with me when I'm eating with my hands, but I do sometimes do that. But again, to be able to give the jaw a workout once you're no longer suckling your mom's breast, then it's things like, ripping, meat off a bone, or eating something that's really a workout for the jaw. So eating an apple, for example, would be quite a workout, because you're having to open the mouth quite a lot and use lots of different muscles in that area. So, maybe, I don't know, perhaps you did have braces when you were a child. And you want to prevent that, massive bill if NHS isn't no longer available for your children. I'm just sort of throwing that out there. But yeah, once you start using cutlery to eat from, again we're no longer getting that natural movement for our teeth. Yeah, natural movement for our jaw as well. So the action of baby suckling mom's boob and actually extracting the milk from mom's breast is actually a really good workout for baby's jaw. So the distinction between feeding from a breast and feeding from a bottle, if you've ever actually made up a bottle of milk and then you sort of test it, normally on the inside of your wrist or whatever for temperature, you don't have to do any work whatsoever to get that water to get the milk out of the bottle. So essentially, when a baby is feeding from a bottle, it's basically just opening its mouth and just letting gravity kind of take over. Okay, so if you want to build your baby's jawline better and have enough space for all of the teeth and prevent it possibly getting braces in its teenage years, I would highly recommend that you breastfeed your baby for as long as you possibly can. That's practical for you and your life situation. And also, I would highly recommend baby-led weaning as well, because when that expression spoon-fed, spoon-feed baby, it's again, since the invention of cutlery, we're no longer really getting a workout for our jaw. So as I mentioned there earlier, if you sort of eat something like an apple or something that is really hard to eat, and you kind of get that like jaw ache afterwards, it's really interesting, isn't it, that you get that fatigue quite quickly. I just find it kind of quite fascinating, really. But your jaw has had a really damn good workout, and we need to do that a little bit more. So since the invention of cutlery, we're not sort of pulling meat off bones, and we're not giving the teeth the workout that they need. So yeah, baby-led weaning is actually really good. Okay, it's messy, but if your main reason for not doing baby-led weaning is because of the mess, you might want to just sort of get over yourself a little bit there, yeah? So when you're spoon-feeding the baby's not really having to do a lot of work there. I think it's really good to kind of get that hand-eye coordination. As I say, like the food goes absolutely everywhere, but maybe if all you're doing is the you know, spoon-fed baby stuff at the moment, maybe just incorporate some of the baby-led weaning with it, okay, so that it's going to help your baby as well. Okay, so that's the end of my discussion there. As I said, I'm going to kind of pop into West Bridgeford now, have a go on the monkey bars, all about you know, building my my upper body strength here in 2017. I have other goals as well as far as natural movement goes as well, but one of the things I kind of mentioned there in my discussion is you know, by the time your child wants to have a go on the monkey bars, you probably won't have the strength anymore to be able to join them. Okay, so you know, I borrow friends' children from time to time, and they all kind of call me alignment nerd Claire, which is fine. And I take them off to the monkey bars, and I don't actually allow them. Sorry, I don't allow me to help them, if that makes sense. Yeah, so they have to get up there by themselves, and they have to do stuff, and they have to, you know, jump down when they start to get fatigued. They know all the rules, but it's just interesting to kind of watch children at play, because you know, sets of monkey bars are depleting now in most UK schools, and mainly through health and safety and all that sort of shizzle. And it's a real damn shame, actually, because, you know, in 20 years' time, when those children are, you know, sort of in the workforce and stuff like that, been through university or whatever, they can have no upper body strength whatsoever. It probably took me about 3 or 4 months, I suppose, really, to successfully do the monkey bars again. But it was a good 3 months worth of prep work to get myself to that point as well. So hopefully you have enjoyed the discussion there. If you're watching this as the recording, you've got all the way to the end, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions whilst you're watching the recording or afterwards, yeah, why don't you just type a little comment there in the box, and I'll do my best to answer those after the recording is rendered. But I'm hoping that today's discussion has sort of just given you a little bit of an outside the box view on why you're getting pain during breastfeeding or feeding, really, yeah, and also making the distinction between breastfeeding and also breast milk as well. I think we've sort of learnt that. Perhaps I've given you hopefully some ideas on the difference between a passive feeding position and an active feeding position. And as I say, like, you will need to start building yourself up. Oh, that's one point I want to note as well. So if you're pregnant right now watching this, and you know your upper body strength is pretty abysmal, you want to, you know, attend as many classes of mine as you possibly can to learn how to work the arms effectively. Yeah, so stop lifting the shoulder, stop poking the chin forwards, all those sorts of things. But you want to, there are things that you could do during your pregnancy now that could help you get less pain when you're feeding your baby as well. So floor sitting, yeah, so the reason I'm standing up and moving around here doing this live segment is because I've been sat on the floor a lot doing my admin so far this morning. So I wanted to just give my body a slightly different workout, and I'm off to meet some friends for lunch actually in a moment. So I know I'm going to be sitting down. So I know you probably think Claire is not on this planet, but I don't like to be conformed to a chair if I can possibly get away with it. So I know, like, you know, throughout my day, I will look at, okay, I can sit down on the floor to do that and give my joints a bit of a workout whilst I'm sitting there. Then I'll get a bit of a walk in to go and meet my friends, because I'm not going to take the bus or, you know, drive to see my friends because they're only a short walk away. Then I know I'm going to be conformed to a chair for a couple of hours whilst we have our business meeting. Then I'm going to walk back, and then I'm going to be kind of wandering around a little bit in my my 3 Pilates classes there this evening. So I actually factor in movement throughout my day and around my sort of classes and you know, business meetings and stuff like that, to help my body. So whilst I'm standing here, as I mentioned, I've got like a little tennis ball type thing underneath my foot, so I'm kind of just massaging my foot every so often. And I've also got a little contraption that I can kind of stretch out my calf with as well. So apologies that I'm moving around. Yeah, I'm not going to stand stationary. But yeah, just giving you a little bit of a window into my life as well, which I want to kind of hopefully transfer onto you as well. Yeah, there's ways that you can get natural movement into your day You don't have to sit on everything. You sit on every chair that you proffered when you're pregnant, for example. And I think if you're pregnant watching this now, and you know that you can't sit on the floor, and you know that you can't really stand up for a long period of time, you know, to hold something, you want to start doing it. Yeah, because I don't want you coming back to me and sort of saying, oh, I'm holding my baby and it's really hurting. I'm telling you exactly how to do that. I'm telling you how to, you know, get those shoulders functioning better and how to use your bicep muscle. Okay, all right. So any questions at all, then just pop a little note there in the comments. And if you're just catching this at the end, don't worry, in a couple of minutes it'll kind of do its magic, and then it'll just appear somewhere in the group there, so you can search in the videos. All right, so I look forward to seeing a few of you in my classes this week. It's very nice to have you on board there, and I shall see you again soon. Bye for now, guys.